pitchers and coaches would be interested in it in the US. If there's any interest, let me know in the replies. Of course, a ton of replies. And we get a good look at the javelins that he uses. He is all about this training regimen. It is so unique, and he chucks those things. And apparently, Todd Father, the story is he saw a young girl in a park throwing javelins once and asked her about it and learned more about how that can increase strength and flexibility and the uniqueness and maybe how it ties into baseball training. And there you go on the poll. Obviously, there's 60% interested in buying the javelin. It's the most we can get America to agree on nowadays. So anyway, Todd Father, do you think that young kids that want to be future Yamamoto-like pitchers in Major League Baseball and get $325 million contracts should be chucking these javelins around? Should we be getting these guys locked in as a sponsor?
Well, let me say this first. Those 2,166 votes are all travel ball coaches that have, or the 60% are all travel ball coaches that say yes, they're going to get it for their kids. I don't think they need that. First off, I think they would probably throw it wrong and end up hurting themselves rather than helping themselves. I do like the part where you say about flexibility and strength. Great, but you got to be strong enough to do it. I think there might be a certain age, probably when you get, in high school, where you're a little more mature, that you could try something like this because it puts you in a different angle. Your shoulder, it's using your shoulder, your arms, your elbows, it looks like. But if you're not throwing it right, you could probably hurt yourself if you want the truth. But I would say no to that right now. I don't think any kid should be using anything like that. I don't think any coach should buy something for their kid or their dad yet. I think if this works out well and it's something that all of a sudden, this guy's taking off, he's got another mile or two on his fastball and he's strong and healthy. It's something to look into. But right now, I would say no.
Yeah, this has got every parent that thinks their kid's going to be a major leaguer because they throw the javelin written all over it. People buy it. Listen, if you put this on the market, there'll be a lot of people that buy it because they're like, my kid's going to be the next Yamamoto and get 300 plus million. Yeah, I agree with Todd. Just throw more. I think kids don't throw enough, especially long toss. Once they get to the high school age, they need to throw long toss more and just do other things. Once you figure a routine out, then you start worrying about specifics. And I think it works for him, but I've seen a million different things work for guys that don't work for other guys. So listen, it's all personal preference, but I guarantee if these hit the market, they will sell, and they will sell like hotcakes because people are like, oh my gosh, my kid can be the next Nobu Yamamoto because he throws a javelin. It doesn't work like that. And also 82.5 is the over-under, Scott, on the Mets.
Ooh. That's really well placed.
Hey, Derek writes in the chat, if Yamamoto wins the Cy Young, every kid in the country will be throwing a javelin. I think that
for sure
will go up. That's a good point, Derek, from
What's the
from
downside?
Tom's River. Thank you.
What's the downside, guys? I mean, it doesn't have to be your bread and butter for your training, but to mix that in there, if there's somebody that's coming over that's done it well, and he's not a big dude, and he's been very durable. I mean, he threw 130 pitches in his last game ever in NPB in that World Series, something like that.
Yeah, I think who's going to train the kid, because they're not going to, hey kid, I just start throwing the javelin, dude. I know a guy that trained me. He missed out on making the Olympics, and he was a javelin thrower. Like, I would be lucky to have that guy to teach me how to throw it, but he might even look at something like this and frown upon it. But he's like, why is it so loose? Why isn't it strong enough to be a javelin? This is a waste of time. So it's like, who's going to teach you how to do it? You can't just get up there and throw it. You know how hard it is to throw a javelin, right? I've tried it before. It's very hard to do. So it's like, if you're not in the right spot, you get your shoulder, all of a sudden you're tweaking from the wrong angle. You're going to have shoulder problems, dude. So it's for young kids. And if you don't have the right trainer to teach you how to do it step by step, you can't just go out there and throw it, dude.
I did not expect to hear that ever on our show. Do you know how hard it is to throw a javelin?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Listen, I agree with everything Todd just said. I mean, listen, if we're gonna put this out there, it better come with not only an instruction booklet, but a video and all kinds of stuff, because there's going to be kids out there just throwing this thing all wrong, hurting their arms. And that's what happens though. I mean, again, weighted balls, right? People, when weighted balls first came out, you'd see people doing it, all kinds of crazy stuff, and people ended up getting hurt from it. So you got to do it right. You got to do it under supervision that know what they're doing. And I don't know that many javelin coaches out there that know how to throw the javelin properly. Todd, you know one? That's one more than anyone else knows, I promise you.
Oh, man. crazy. This world's crazy sometimes, man. It makes me laugh. I just laugh it off.
Well, everyone's looking for the next edge, if possible, or just some new training regimen. And here's some video of Yamamoto, and he is nasty. I mean, he's got 2 plane break on the fastball. He's got a 6 splitter. I've been listening to Cyrus on some of his starting pitching rankings, and he was comparing him to Kevin Gossman, but he's got a 4 pitch mix instead of a 2 pitch mix. So he's got the fastball splitter combo that's similar in his mind to Gossman, although it's coming from a lower arm angle because he's smaller than him. And then he's got 2 more pitches on top of that. And really, at least I think 3 of them are ranked elite plus pitches, which is why he is the richest pitcher in Major League Baseball right now.
I want to ask AJ another question, dude. From Japan, like they are so good at the split change or splitter. How don't we develop that in our pitchers? Our pitchers, like I'm a pitching coach, in pitchers in the United States. Like why aren't we trying to throw that pitch? Because it's a devastating pitch. I remember facing it in the Olympics, bro. That thing shoot, and it just fell right off the table. Like it's nasty pitch, bro. I don't know why. I mean, do we just not? We're like, don't worry about it. I mean, Roger Clemens had a really good one. I don't know.
Well, because everyone's scared they're going to hurt their arms, right? You hear it all the time. Oh, if you throw a split, you're going to hurt your arms.
Yeah.
Roger Craig, remember him with the Giants? He taught a bunch of those Giants guys back in the day to throw splits, and then you look at Mr. Baseball. He went over there. He couldn't hit the shoot though, which was the split. Remember Tom Selleck? He struggled until he figured it out. But the thing is, we don't teach it properly. So like guys hold it differently, right? So this is kind of a lesser split, and then some guys get it like way deep in their fingers, like all the way split, right? Where you're almost half and half on the ball. You can see that. And then I remember Jose Contreras would take a softball and stick a softball between his fingers. And he would actually try to grab seams see how I like grab a seam with my middle finger here, and that would make it move different ways. So it's just something that needs to be taught. And the other thing is you really got to stay on top, like with your hand, and just pull it straight down. I think guys are so taught now to get around balls, and if you start throwing it at a young age, man, it can mess you up if you don't do it properly. It's like anything though. If you're not doing it right, you're not going to be effective, and it's going to end up being bad in the long run. But I think if you know what you're doing and you can throw, look at Kevin Gausman. He's basically a 2-pitch guy, right? Fastball split, and he's effective. Clemens had the split forever. I mean, Dave Stewart. There's a long list of guys with nasty splits. And listen, it was one of the hardest pitches to hit. Tim Hudson, right? Remember him? I mean, he would just go split, and you're like, gosh, when's he going to throw one that's straight? You just can't see it. It looks the same coming out, but it's a devastating pitch if you can master it.
Hey, and Scott, I'll tell you this: when we were playing in Japan, they would ever be in between every pitch. They had this rosin bag, so it wasn't the same rosin as we had, because when we used the rosin that we used, it wasn't as dusty and cloudy. So they would hit the rosin in between every pitch and throw it, and every time they threw it, a cloud of smoke would pop out of their hands, and you couldn't see the ball. So everything looked like a fastball, and then Yankee would fall down. Like we were complaining about it, and the umpire, wherever he was from, didn't speak English, so it was hard. But they would powder up that hand. I'm like, hey man, tell him to wipe it off, and the guy's like, I don't know what you're saying, but they would throw it, poof, cloud of dust would pop up and would make that splitter even more effective. Nothing you can do.
So, really, from this conversation, I think we've learned. Javelin okay, but how about watching Yamamoto this year and others that throw the splitter well and just learning that pitch, right?
Or wait until you get older though. Don't start throwing this at like 12 years old.
See, this hurts my hand. This is like killing my 2 fingers here.
When can you start a splitter in your?
I mean, I would wait till you're later in high school to start throwing that. I mean, work on a fastball command, work on a changeup. Work on trying to throw a smaller breaking ball that's easier on your arm. You don't need to be cranking them, right, until you get to be a junior or senior, at least in high school. I mean, and you can play with the split a little bit here and there. But listen, until you get into college or a little bit, 18 years old and you're kind of almost fully developed, like let everything finish. Like we're not in a rush here. Everyone's in a rush. Like, oh, my kid's 9 years old, man. He's got a wicked breaking ball. He also like drops way down here, right? And he's like cranking his elbow. And then they're like, oh, my kid had Tommy John at 11. I don't know why. Well, I mean, I'll tell you why, because you're cranking breaking balls at nine years old. Like learn how to command the fastball, learn how to throw a changeup, and then we can work from there. But I mean, everyone's in such a rush now to make their kid, oh, he's a big leaguer at 10 years old. Calm down.
All my kid wants to do is throw a curveball, and he's 9 years old, and I want to rip his head off his shoulders sometimes. And he's like, Dad, I'm like, fastball. Like it's amazing thing. He doesn't know how to throw it. It's basically like 40 miles an hour, but he's not even throwing it right. So I'm like, dude, you don't even know how to throw it yet. I don't even know how to teach you to throw a curveball. So don't even try it. If you get hit around in your fastball, tip your cap and move on, bro. It's 9-year-old baseball, I tell him. And he doesn't get it yet. But there's a lot of kids around here, especially too. I mean, all over that are throwing curveballs at a young age. It's develop that changeup first. That's as devastating as a curveball is.
Curveballs look cool though. That's the thing.
Yeah, they're
They're
cooler. Yeah.
video game ish. They look cool on social media, right? If you got a guy swinging out of his shoes on a curveball, it looks cool. Don't you think that contributes to why people want to, or kids want to have it in their arsenal at a young age?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
It's the cool
That's the other
thing.
pitch for Yamamoto, by the way. That's the other pitch, by the way. So, I mean, he's got a
Listen,
devastating curveball on top of the fastball splitter combo or combinations.
my kid was like 12 years old. My son, we went to Cooperstown to play in the Hall of Fame game, and Kevin Gross was there. And he was like trying to teach my kid how to throw a curveball. My kid was like, "Oh, this is so cool, Dad! Watch me throw this curveball." And I'm like, "Let's just wait a couple of years," like Todd said. I'm like, let's calm down a little bit here because you're a little bit young to be throwing this curveball. But I mean, he taught him properly how to throw it, and he was like, "This is how we do it," and and it was the right thing to do. But I was like, let's slow our roll down a little bit here. You're only 12.
Keep that in the arsenal when you get older. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now he doesn't even pitch, so it's perfect.
So he could have done whatever he wanted to do, Last part of this. So one other unique aspect to Yamamoto, because this was kicked off by the javelin conversation, is he doesn't believe in lifting weights. So this is essentially his weight training.
I love that. I
You do?
absolutely love it. I don't
Pitchers
like
not be lifting?
I don't like lifting weights either. That's why I can't stand working out, but I never liked it. But I mean, it's interesting. He wants to keep it nice and loose up here, I guess. I don't know. I mean, how about some band work? I feel like if they do some band work to keep the shoulder right, I mean, is band work lifting weights? Because I'm sure he might be doing
No,
that. No, right?
no.
He's
I think
talking
he's
about
talking about
heavy lifting and stuff.
the good
Yeah,
stuff, the old school rack 'em.
everybody has their own techniques and work ethics. I'll never knock somebody for that. You know what I mean? Guys, I remember a pitcher who used to eat McDonald's before every time he pitched. The one time Dusty Baker told him, man, you can't be eating that crap. He went out, pitched, didn't eat McDonald's. He got shelled. Dusty told him, hey, listen, go get your McDonald's before the game. So it was you do what you want. You do what you want. And if it works for you, it works for you.
It shocked the system. That was the problem. You shocked the system by taking the McDonald's away. That was his fuel. His body was like, what is this real stuff? What is this?
Todd, listen, I came up with the Twins, and they were like anti-weights. There was no lifting weights.
Really?
We didn't even have a strength coach until a couple years in.
You didn't have any jack dudes on your team?
I mean, we had like Marty Cordova. He was pretty jacked.
Oh,
did he not lift weights?
No, he did, but they just didn't want guys to do it because this was the old school thinking. Like you get too tight, you can't throw, you can't move. Whereas now we've obviously figured out more kinesiology, movement patterns, and stuff like that for different movements, and the training has gotten so much better, and the equipment has gotten so much better that now it's all about core movement and replicating moves and all that. But yeah, I mean, when I came up with the Twins, they were like weights. You don't touch a weight.
Dude, and then on the opposite side, I saw a guy after a 3-hour and 40-minute game get in there, do 90 to 100-pound Turkish get-ups. I'm like, holy cow, like this is crazy. Doing cleans. I'm like, this ain't me. I'm over there with 20-pound dumbbells doing bicep curls, baby, and triceps and all this stuff. I'm like, am I doing this wrong?